The top stories tonight. Vice President Shettima aborts U.S. trip as presidential jet develops faults. Ikeja Electric electricity distribution company slashes tariff for Band A customers. Adamawa state shuts public and private schools over measles outbreak. Chadians vote in first presidential election after 3 decades. It's good to have you join us. Welcome. I'm Felicity Eziwike. Let's begin by telling you that the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, who was scheduled to represent President Bola Tinubu at a summit in Dallas, Texas, has aborted the trip following a technical fault with his aircraft. Shettima was to represent the president at the 2024 U.S.-Africa Business Summit organized by the Corporate Council on Africa. Stanley Kwacha, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications, Office of the Vice President, disclosed this in a statement on Monday in Abuja. Kwacha said the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Toga, will represent the president at the summit as Shettima could not be able to make the trip. He stressed that a technical fault forced the vice president to make a detour on the advice of the presidential air fleet. Nigeria's political elite have been tasked to emulate the leadership virtues of late President Umar Yar'Adua and embrace his far-reaching reforms. This was as stakeholders converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, for an annual lecture to commemorate the life and times of the late president, saying much can be learned from his unblemished leadership. Marvelous Obomanu has details.
This is a gathering of both former and serving leaders in Nigeria, including members of the nation's political elite. Many here at this event remember the late president for his forthrightness and integrity, notably his willingness to accept that the electoral process that brought him into power was flawed and in need of reforms.
It is, his honesty and sincerity in dealing with a problem, and the incorruptibility, of Musa Yar'Adua. You cannot, blame him for corruption.
As an avowed apostle of rule of law, he made sure that he led this country with the principles of equity, justice, and fairness. And throughout the Fourth Republic, the period between 2007 and 2010 was the most united, most prosperous, and most stable in terms of economics and security matters in the history of the Fourth Republic.
14 years after, the leadership qualities of late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua still rings in the minds of many Nigerians. So many people say that Nigeria is still suffering from leadership crisis 24 years after democracy. Now, many leaders have been urged to embrace the leadership qualities of the late president.
The short time President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua spent in office was profound. It was profound, spectacular, and fantastic. All over the country.
He established Mohammed Owai's Electoral Reform Committee. If we had followed the report and implemented the report, perhaps we would not be where we are today. We would be in a better position.
Sadly, his government was short-lived following his death. Some here say Nigeria's political leadership has not impressed citizens, sailing like a ship without a clear-cut direction.
When it will be your time and turn, will people speak good about you? Remember, we just have a young governor who is currently on the run and have refused to show up.
107 years after amalgamation and 64 years after independence, and of course 24 years into civil democratic rule in the Fourth Republic. With the promise of a united, strong, and prosperous nation state still elusive, now is the time to reflect appropriately on our yesterday with the aim of making tomorrow better, starting from doing the right thing today.
In a time when the nation's economy is going through a lot of challenges, with recorded cases of past and present public officers accused of allegedly embezzling public funds. Nigerians are calling for leaders with unquestionable integrity, morality, and honesty. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomman.
Thank you, Marvelous. Let's bring you one of our lead stories tonight. The Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company has reduced the electricity tariff payable by its Band A customers to 206 naira 80 kobo per kilowatt hour from the 225 naira approved by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NEC). The spokesperson for the company in a release on Monday stated that the downward tariff review of the Band A customers would take effect from Monday, May 6, 2024. The decision to crash the tariff may not be unconnected with the public outcry over the increase in electricity, which industry observers, civil society organizations, and labor unions have described as insensitive. The tariffs for bands B, C, D, and E remain unchanged. To security matters now, Christian leaders in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, have raised an alarm over the plight of widows and orphans, many of them who lost their loved ones due to insecurity. They are calling on the state government to pay attention to the victims and render support to ease their hardship. Again, my colleague Marvelous Obomane reports.
The activities of armed bandits, terrorists and kidnappers in the northern part of the country has left villages and families in grief and dismay. While communities have been deserted, many citizens have fled their ancestral homes for safety, losing livelihoods, leaving behind orphans and widows following attacks on their communities.
But the federal government has been trying her possible best to ensure that they reduce the crime that is being committed, especially the issue of terrorism. Nevertheless, I will call upon them to help, especially these widows, the orphans. And so government should come to the aid of such kind of subsidiary institutions so that both of us will work towards achieving bettering the life of our citizens.
Members of Hekan Women Fellowship, who gathered for their annual national convention and to celebrate 50 years of Golden Jubilee in Kaduna State, call on government to do more in combating insecurity in the state.
We have been calling on government to really be more serious in the way that this issue of insecurity is being tackled. Really, this issue of insecurity must be stopped so that we have less widows in the nation.
I want to advise the women to be obedient to their husband and to try and meditate what they have teaching us in this week for the program.
So I want to urge the parents not to be too far away from their children, not to be too unaware of what is happening. Let them keep an eye and ensure that discipline is also enforced in the home. That is the only way we can raise children that are godly.
They are also calling on the state government to focus more on assisting victims in order to get them back on their feet again. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomane.
The management and staff of Plateau State University Bokers have stated the need for enhanced security in and around the institution for the safety of both students and staff. Vice Chancellor of the university, Professor Shedrack Best, made the plea when he received Governor Caleb Mufwang on his visit to commiserate with the university on the death of 2 students in the last attacks in Bokers local government area. News Center's Chizoba Anyowe was there and now tells us more.
This is not the first time students of the Plateau State University Bokers are being affected by the recurrent attacks in the state. though clarifying that the affected students were not attacked within the school premises nor by the military as earlier claimed in some quarters. The Vice Chancellor is asking for measures to improve on the security architecture of the school.
We have a growing culture of substance abuse in the neighborhood where the university is domiciled. But our greatest challenge is the perimeter fence and the lack of accommodation for our students, the inadequate accommodation. As a result of which, over 93% of the students live outside the university premises. And because of that, it makes it difficult for us to control their behavior, whether socially or morally, and many of them tend to be erratic. If they are within the confines of the university, which is fenced, and where they are housed, discipline will be easier for us to control.
It was the governor's first official visit after returning from an official trip abroad. He commended security chiefs on the Plateau for their efforts in stemming the tides of violence in the state, while urging stakeholders to collaborate with them for a more peaceful Plateau.
Let me assure you that where we find any of the security agents wanting, we will not hesitate to take it up with superior authorities. But we must thank them because they are also exposing their lives to danger. Some of you find it easy to say, we don't want the army again, we don't want the army again. Let me tell you, if the army was not here, we may not be here in this way. Let's be honest to ourselves. What we need to do is to find ways of encouraging, motivating, and making sure that we cultivate the best of relationships with them.
If words will be matched with actions, then community members, students, and staff of this university would heave a sigh of relief, noting the assurances and reassurances given by the state governor that this security presence you're seeing behind me will be maintained as well as sustained for their safety. From Bokos local government area of Plateau State, Chizoba Anyonwe, reporting for News Central.
Thank you, Chizoba. Coming up, Adamawa State shuts public and private schools over measles outbreak. We'll bring you details after the break. Do stay with us. If you just joined us, you're watching Tonight. A reminder of our top stories. Vice President Shettima aborts U.S. trip as presidential jet develops fault. Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company slashes tariff for Band A customers. Adamawa State shuts public and private schools over measles outbreak. Chadians vote in first presidential election after 3 decades. Now, the fundamental factor that has scuttled and undermined Nigeria's progress and viability over the years is the fragility of the institutions. The absence of strong institutions in Nigeria has made it almost impossible to enforce rules, whip people into line, and ensure that actions and inactions have consequences. Like a vicious circle, this feeds into and is in turn reinforced by a host of other defects that have bedeviled the polity, including bad leadership and misgovernment, disempowered and spectating followership, and a morally bankrupt value system. Conversely, due to the absence of such institutional mechanisms and regulatory frameworks in Nigeria, the leaders have taken advantage of the lacuna to exploit the system. To discuss this, I'm joined by the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, Elvis Akbobi. Elvis, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
How can a legal framework be established, in your view, to ensure the independence and accountability of key institutions like the judiciary, legislature, and importantly, anti-corruption agencies?
For me, I believe that people make up these institutions to talk about, and these strong institutions are the bedrock of strong society. So if we all play our roles, it takes more than just making laws. You must enact the law, and that rule of law must take place. Today we're doing remembrance for a president who didn't even have much time to, impact people. But the few times he stayed as the president, it's on record today. It's in the annals of our history today that Yar'Adua is one of the best presidents we had, and owing to the fact that he subscribed to the rule of law. So for me, if the presidency they are serious about change in our country, rule of law must take place and must build strong institutions where people don't just commit crimes and get away with it.
All right, what transparency measures could be put in place to implement an increase in public trust in government institutions and decision-making by this government and the processes that make that?
Over the years, we've had policies, we've implemented policies, but these policies seem to be failing, owing to the fact that these policies they are built on the bedrock of bias, personal interest, and political interest. You see cases where a particular person. There were times where we had a video clip of a particular governor who, for me, I think is a chairman of a party today in our country. We had cases of him being videoed with a huge amount of foreign currencies, and the anti-graft agencies didn't do anything about it. And you know what society celebrates multiply. What society ignores will always multiply. So when people don't people are not handled, people don't pay for the consequences of their actions. Invariably, you're trying to say people can subscribe to it. Also, at the moment now, there's a particular case, I hate to talk about it because we advocated for young people to be on the table of decision making, and we have a particular governor who seems to be on the run now. It's now that governor today is a major and a barometer for majoring youth inclusion and all that. But for me, if we have strong institutions, whoever does anything that is against the law, against our constitution, should go for it, irrespective of social strata, irrespective of party and all that. So while I want to also commend the EFCC because of late we've seen Nigerians they are upright with the Naira note, not because of anything, but because of the fact that the EFCC have stood up. They are now rigid with what they think the law, the acts towards the Naira note, and every Nigerian is sitting up. If we can have that in every other strata of government, we'll get it right as a country.
How, in your view, can capacity building programs be designed to equip public servants with the necessary skills and knowledge to improve on service delivery?
Firstly, we've been having a lot of capacity building programs. Let's ask ourselves, the people that are meant to enact these laws, the police, we have policemen, we have drug, the NDLA, customs and all that. How's their enumeration like? Because when people are hungry, they become vulnerable. When you don't reward people for diligence and uprightness, they become vulnerable. If we'll have cases where people will be like, are you the one that will change Nigeria? That shouldn't be the thing. If we have a government that is serious about, rigidity of law and all that, the likes of the NDLA, the customs and all that, if they get good enumeration, I'm not sure they will be vulnerable. So for me, aside capacity building, let's try and, give good enumeration to these people who enact laws, who enforce laws, and who make our institutions very, very strong.
Elvis, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Men of the enforcement team of the Lagos State Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, KAI, on Monday, raided 2 major illegal settlements in Lagos Island axis of the state. Leading his team, the commander of KAI said the government's zero tolerance on erecting settlements along waterways and setbacks. News Central's special correspondent on investigative journalism, Marshal Anthony Ononye was there.
On Monday morning, the first port of call for men of the enforcement team of the State Ministry of Environment and Water Resources in its fight against indiscriminate occupation of the waterways, canals, underbridges and lagoons is the underbridge at Adeniji Adele, Lagos.
So several businesses were going on here, including brothel. And in running the brothel, you have these used condoms being produced from a brothel that was being run here.
Next stop was the canal along the Abuta Elefun axis of the Lagos Island. Upon arrival, here we discovered a long chain of apartments numbering over 100 where people were living and cohabiting daily. The men from Kai moved into action immediately, having served a quit notice to the illegal settlers days before.
You have a whole lot of structures. The place is smelling and they are choked up. If there's any small fire incident, it's going to take so many lives. The place stinks. The number of accommodation we have here, if I'm not mistaken, it's more than 100.
Wait, your 4 children, where then? Did they school? Did they school? Okay, now you wait. Mike, please.
Nígbà tó lé wa ní Sakamori ńbẹ̀ yẹn ní Kama àti Pepe lọ fún wa ní bíbá yẹn pé táwa kọ́lé sí bíbá yẹn. Kama àti Pepe. Yes, Pepe, that is chairman now. Local government, yes, that Pepe, chairman. Okay. Ó wá fún wa bíbá yẹn gbà tó wá fún wa bíbá yẹn pé tá máa manage. Ọkọ̀ dédé dé pé a máa sanwó kan a máa ṣe kíní kan yẹn that principal. With
allegation that some residents were paying between 1,000 to 3,000 naira monthly to the principal of the school whose fence bordered the lagoon, I moved to find out from the principal.
I was present here 2021, January 21st, and I met all those structures there. So I know nothing about it.
So you didn't collect any amount?
At all.
Ironically, while the Abuta Elefun was providing free education to thousands of students at the Abuta Elefun Secondary School, some others whose parents reside at the makeshift apartments were assembling in this makeshift learning facility where the children pay between 5,000 to 10,000 naira for academic lessons.
Okay, this is nursery 2 and this is primary 4. So you have nursery 2 and primary 4 in one station. Okay, so classes go on simultaneously. That is, you take this class and this class at the same time. So you are the teacher for this class, which is primary 4. And you are the teacher for this class, which is nursery 2. Despite the disparity in their levels or classes, you'd find the teachers teaching a number of students combined in one station. That's the kind of structure or system you'd find in a place like Abuta Elefun Canal makeshift apartments. These students are from this makeshift apartments. It's a sad day for them and their parents as their accommodations are being torn apart and taken down by the government.
We just got this apartment newly. The place we were before was a local government where they demolished the place. And if we are to look at it now, and they demolished this place now, the children, we have to go back to streets. Let me give for instance now, there is an area there, and let me say area boy is there. Because if you see some of the children, they'll be sending them weed, cigarettes, alcohol, which is not proper because they are still young. And their mentality is very wild.
The Lagos State Ministry of Environment and Water Resources has continued to warn illegal settlers along canals, drainages, underbridges and waterways to desist from erecting any form of properties on the setback or risk being demolished. Activities in the last few days have shown the ministry intends to make good their warning. For News Central, Marshal Anthony Ononye.
Over this past weekend, there was an outrage over the demolition of structures by the Lagos State government at the Orojobe and Mende estates in Maryland, Lagos State, Nigeria. According to the state government, the exercise is meant to reclaim the right of way of a channel. News Central's Bettina Uweli reports.
I'm a supporter of this government. When they say Ikeja Electric, I believe in raising this government. But this is not how you raise a government. This is Iwule Eko. This is the destruction of Lagos.
The Lagos state government has demolished parts of Orojobe and Mende Estate Villa, clearing the channel to ensure better flow and prevent flooding. According to the Ministry of Environment, it was noted during a visit that structures at Mende Villa Estate are obstructing the channel without observing the mandatory 15-meter setback.
It is so unfortunate that we have to do this, but they've been on this since 3 years ago, and the plea had always been, give us more time. So if you choose to give them even 3 months, they'll say ask for more time, and the rains are coming. So it's not just taking a decision on the spot. That's not the way we operate in the environment and water resources. It's a painstaking process, and we'll get to the root of it.
While the government alleges to have sent out notice of the demolition in 2021 and 2023 respectively, residents remain adamant about not getting any prior notice, especially as they have constantly been up to date with the payment of their land use charge.
We never got any notice. We have spoken to the developer. Developer said he never got any notice. Our houses were not marked. What is a notice? A notice is to tell someone that this is what I want to do with timelines. We didn't get anything. So if they have, they should show us. They should show us who signed it. Where is the copy? We don't have any of such.
As a responsible citizen, I pay my taxes. I mean, look at this estate. It has been here for how many years? We pay land use charge. The government knows about us. We've paid millions, and there's evidence. I might not be a lawyer, but there's a paper trail to show that applications have gone, permissions have been granted, and that is why I believe that this estate was not brought down as quickly as other places were. Weeks before this happened, other places were, maybe because they didn't have their documents. Ours was a special case because we did have documents. And the Honorable Commissioner came to engage us.
It's quite unfortunate how residents of the Mende Estate Villa 1 slept as landlords but woke up as tenants, and some homeless and squatting because of the demolition process that is going on here. Now, a lot of the residents have expressed their concerns ranging from security to health and even health issues. When you look at the fence by the canal that has been brought down, residents have said that scavengers come in from there and they no longer consider themselves safe. Even the unaffected residents have concerns as to how these scavengers would affect the estates. It remains to be seen how the government of Lagos State will handle the situation, as a lot of residents, if not all, still claim that the government gave no notice before this demolition took place. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
To health matters now, the Adamawa state government in northeast Nigeria has closed down public and private schools following the outbreak of measles in the state. The closure notice was contained in a statement signed by the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education and Human Capital Development, Aisha Umar, in Yola on Monday. Umar said the closure was to mitigate the spread of the disease and to enable the state primary healthcare development agency to vaccinate the vulnerable age group. At least 42 children have been confirmed dead following the outbreak of the disease. The ministry therefore announced Monday, May 13, as a new resumption date for the school. Earlier on the news, Commissioner for Health in Adamawa State shared more insight on this.
There are some communities, because of beliefs that they felt they should not be vaccinated, and that exposed them to susceptibility. So when there was an attack from this virus, those communities were affected. So we have what is called non-compliant communities. Usually in the outbreaks like this, especially that of measles, or in vaccination, you have people who felt they shouldn't be vaccinated, They have this belief that if they do, the population can be reduced, or their female children cannot give birth to children again when they get married. So these are some of the factors that cause the measles outbreak. On the whole, the sure reason for the outbreak is lack of getting the vaccination so as to build immunity against measles.
Still ahead, counting begins in Chad presidential polls. Details after the break. Thank you for staying with us. The news continues in Central Africa, where counting has begun after Chadians voted in a presidential election to end 3 years of military rule that opponents of junta leader Mohamed Idris Deby Itno have dismissed as a fix. Several polling stations remained opened late in the capital, Jamena, but with most closed counting got underway. The vote will decide whether to extend 3 decades of Deby family rule in a country crucial to the fight against jihadis across the Sahel Desert region. Chad is the first of 4 military regimes in the Sahel to hold an election after successive coups in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger since 2020. In East Africa, the death toll from weeks of relentless rains and floods in Kenya has climbed to 228 as authorities warn of continued crisis conditions. Despite escaping major damage from a tropical cyclone that weakened after hitting land, Kenya and neighboring Tanzania are still grappling with torrential downpours and the looming threat of further floods and landslides. In western Kenya, the river Nyando overflowed early Sunday, overwhelming a police station, school, hospital, and a market in Kisumu County. While there are no immediate reports of casualties, local police caution that water levels are still rising, with the main bridge outside Kisumu along the Nairobi highway submerged. The region has been besieged by weeks of heavier than usual seasonal rains, worsened by the El Nino weather pattern wreaking havoc across East Africa. Want a short break? The news continues right after. Do stay with us. Up next tonight is business news.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Welcome to Business News. Ikeja Electric Distribution Company, IE, announced a reduction in its electricity tariff for customers categorized under Band A on Monday, lowering the rate from 225 naira per kilowatt hour to 206 naira 80 kobo per kilowatt hour. This adjustment has been detailed in a circular issued by the company's management. It indicates that customers in this band will now pay 206 naira 80 kobo per kilowatt hour instead of the previously stipulated 225 naira as directed by NERC. The statement also assures customers in Band A of a guaranteed electricity supply ranging from 20 to 24 hours daily. Meanwhile, the tariff rates for customers in other categories, including Bands B, C, D, and E, remain unchanged. And moving on, the value of Nigeria's currency in circulation has risen to 3.87 trillion naira at the end of March. This is according to the latest money and credit statistics on the website of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The currency in circulation was 3.87 trillion naira, higher than 3.69 trillion naira in February and 3.65 trillion naira in January. However, currency outside banks have also increased progressively during the first quarter, growing from 3.28 trillion naira in January to 3.41 trillion naira and 3.63 trillion naira in February and March, respectively. The data revealed that over 90% of currency in circulation is held outside of the banking system, indicating Nigerians are holding more cash. And finally, oil futures climbed on Monday after Saudi Arabia hiked June crude prices for most regions and as the prospect of a Gaza ceasefire deal appeared slim, renewing fears the Israel-Hamas conflict could still widen in the key oil-producing region. Brent crude futures were up 43 cents or 0.5% to $83.39 a barrel at 1300 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were at $78.62 a barrel, up 51 cents or 0.7%. Last week, both futures contracts posted their steepest weekly loss in 3 months, with Brent falling more than 7% and WTI down 6.8% as investors weighed weak U.S. jobs data and a possible timing of a Federal Reserve interest rate cut. The geopolitical risk premium in oil prices also eased as talks for a Gaza ceasefire were underway. That's all from your business news at this time. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetual Fasami Peter. The news continues shortly. Bye for now.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money. Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Away from table tennis to football, Frank Mawenas was the hero for Remo Stars as they came from behind to defeat a spirited Rivers United 2-1 in a rescheduled Nigerian Premier Football League clash and move within a point of leaders Rangers International. The Sky Blue Stars found themselves trailing at halftime after former striker Andy Okpe converted a penalty in the 19th minute for the visitors in a keenly contested encounter on Monday evening. However, an inspired second-half performance by the talismanic Mowena completely turned the tide in Remo's favour. The Togolese frontman set up Hadi Aruna for the crucial equaliser in the 68th minute before towering above everyone to head home a late winner from a corner 7 minutes from regulation time to seal the win and a potentially massive 3 points. The victory sees Remo cut the gap on pace setters Rangers to just a single point, having now completed their third game in hand, cranking up the pressure in the thrilling title race. And now to Paris, with the Olympic Flames set to arrive in Marseille in 2 days' time, organizers of the 2024 Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games on Monday revealed the design of the torch relay cauldron. Designed by Matteo Lehano, it will be lit at each stopover city in France by the last torchbearer of the day. The cauldron stands 1.15 meters tall, making it accessible for wheelchair users. It weighs 95 kilograms with a ring made of stainless steel and the base crafted from aluminium. Its next appearance in Marseille on 8 May will herald the commencement of 4 months of celebratory events commemorating the Games in France. In every stopover city, the day's final torchbearer will ignite the cauldron at the celebration venue, culminating in vibrant festivities. And to wrap up sports updates, we go straight to the world of tennis, where Rafael Nadal was drawn on Monday with a qualifier in the first round of the Italian Open as the 22 Grand Slam winner continues his comeback from injury on clay in Rome. Should Nadal get through to the second round in the Italian capital, where he has won the title a record 10 times, he could face world number 9 Hubert Hurkacz. Also on Nadal's side of the draw are last year's winner, world number 4 Dani Medvedev, and the beaten finalist Holger Rune. The 37-year-old last won in Rome in 2021 and dropped out last year with injury ahead of the tournament. Since making his comeback in April after 3 months on the sidelines, Nadal, who currently sits at 305 in the men's ATP Tour rankings after hardly playing in 2023, has been knocked out in the second round in Barcelona and reached the last 16 in Madrid. Interesting times ahead in the career of Rafael Nadal. That wraps it up on Sports Update. I'm Favor Itwa. Up next is entertainment.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile. Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Entertainment tonight kicks off with the sensational Afrobeat star Davido bidding farewell to the timeless era. Just this evening, Davido took to X to drop a bombshell teaser of his upcoming Kante video, accompanied by the cryptic caption, Kante, May 8th, the final chapter. With his legacy of delivering chart-toppers and visually stunning productions, fans are abuzz with excitement, speculating what this transition means for Davido's musical trajectory. As we eagerly await the trending teaser of the Kante video, one thing is certain. The end of the timeless era is merely the prologue of yet another electrifying chapter in Davido's musical journey. Let's take a look at that teaser from Davido's Kante video.
Make your body come, my body make a cool my tension.
And now, away from the continent, Billie Eilish is in the news. Billie Eilish is gearing up to host two massive listening parties for her highly anticipated album, Hit Me Hard and Soft, next week. Taking place on May 15th at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn and May 16th at the Care Forum in Los Angeles. Fans can request up to 2 tickets each until May 7th at 9 a.m. PT, with confirmation sent out on May 10th. In a recent interview, Billie Eilish revealed that the album reflects her journey to her pre-fame self, describing it as the best time of her life. Following the album release, Billie Eilish will kick off a world tour starting September 29th in the Quebec, Canada, with North American shows wrapping up in Los Angeles on December 17th, followed by concerts in Australia and Europe in 2025. And that's all on entertainment tonight. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll bring you the latest on what's trending tonight.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Now, moving away from entertainment stories, the highlight of our trending stories tonight is the hashtag the federal government, and I'll tell you why. According to reports, in a bid to combat fraud and bolster financial inclusion nationwide, the federal government sets its sight on registering a staggering 1.9 million point-of-sale agents with the Corporate Affairs Commission. The initiative aims to revolutionize Nigeria's financial landscape by deploying a vast network of certified POS agents. But are Nigerians agreeing with this initiative? Let us find out on X, where some Nigerians have taken their concerns to X. Inchedor is saying, that is good. After this, I will stop withdrawing from POS because I know they will start to charge 500 naira to withdraw 5,000 naira. I know almost 90% of them don't have CAC, and CAC must be above 50K now. Another tweet from Dupe is saying, this is weird. Is it possible for the banks and fintech not to know this from KYC? CAC can't register POS operators, but business entities. NFIU and the central bank should adopt a back-end monitoring approach to POS operations. And then another tweet from Olakunle is saying, I thought many of them registered with banks, but we don't keep records in Nigeria. Registration alone won't solve the problem of fraud that comes with POS. Fraud cases must be prosecuted fintech services must be properly organized. And that's where we call it a wrap tonight on What's Trending, but you can join the conversation and share your thoughts across our social media platforms at News Central TV. I'm Jadel Simon.
Thank you, Jadel. And that's where we wrap it up tonight. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Vice President Shettima has aborted U.S. trip as presidential jet develops fault. Ikeja Electricity Distribution Company has slashed tariff for Band A customers. Adamawa State has shut public and private schools over measles outbreak. We also brought you news that Chadians have voted in first presidential election after 3 decades. Would like to hear from you. Please send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.